this is Mrs. Buckner, World Cultures, and today I'm going to talk to you about the history of the Middle East. So, we are on the Middle East today, and the Middle East is North Africa, Southwest Asia. So, today we're going to be talking about the history. It's got some rich history in. Um, in the Middle East. And so today, that's what our near pod is about. So, the history of Middle East. Here are our key vocabulary words. The first one is sultan, and a sultan is the Ottoman Empire's king. So, we know in Russia we said the king's name was a czar. Now we are learning in Southwest Asia and North Africa during this time of the Ottoman Empire, the king was a sultan. So that's what that is. A caliphate. A caliphate is the Muslims government that ruled the Islamic Empire during the Middle Ages. Now, a caliphate is uh, is twofold. So the Muslims had people like a priest or a uh, religious leader. The religious leader, well, the religious leader was also the government leader, and so a caliphate is that a person that has he's both the religious leader and the leader of the area. So during the Middle Ages, so that's what a caliphate is. Dysphoria, that is the scattering of a group of people like the Jews. Yes, the Jews have been going through a lot of conflict their lives. That religion has been persecuted so much, and we're going to talk about that what that is to have to be exiled and moved out. That's dysphoria. All right, refugee is a person who leaves their country to seek protection in another country. So many people, because of war or whatever, it's a push factor. You become a refugee. So there are many refugees that live in America. They, for some reason, their country is going through some type of problem, and they are moved to America or some other country. They have to leave their country. All right, and Pharaohs is an ancient Egyptian king. So we're talking about Egypt. I know you've done the walk like an Egyptian. So that we're talking about that Egyptian empire, the ancient civilization of Egyptians, and their king was named Pharaoh. All right. And so now what you need to do is to connect the term with the definition. So connect the term with the word. Sorry, connect the term with the word. So once you get finished with that, we'll move on to Mesopotamia. So this is the first civilization, Mesopotamia. Now, Mesopotamia is, they call it the land between two rivers because we already talked about the cradle of civilization right here. It's a crescent, all right? That's Mesopotamia. That's where this civilization lived. So Mesopotamia was the area, and the people were called Sumers or Sumerians. Um, this is called the birthplace of civilization because the oldest bones in the world are found in this area. Okay. Mesopotamia is located between the Tigris and the Euphrates River, and that's why it is really a place where people settle because they have not just one river, but two major rivers. So you can tell that this land right here is very good for growing things. And that's one of the key things that the Sumerians did in Mesopotamia. All right. This is where Iraq is today. So there were many city states that developed in Mesopotamia. So we've talked about that in Rome. They created city states. Here is another place that created city states. We talked about that also in South America. So the Middle East also had these city-states that were developed. They had their own gods. They had their own government leaders. These are actually the clay representations of their gods. So they would put those everywhere to represent whatever they needed. And so many civilizations in Mesopotamia believed in many gods. And what is the word for many gods? Polytheism. What's the name for one God? Monotheism. All right, so they had all of these gods they believed in, and they are polytheistic. They were polytheistic. All right, one of the major things that they did was make the first written laws. They did the first set of written laws called Hammurabi's Code. Who was Hammurabi? He was the king or the person that was ruling the land. And he made these codes. He was harsh. They were very, very strict. If you stole something, they cut off your arm. The law, when you hear that an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, that's from Hammurabi Code. So he wasn't playing in that, but he was the first one to make laws that were written down and everybody had to obey. So Mesopotamia's contributions, they did irrigation. All right, what is irrigation? That is when water is transferred to a place so that it can water the land so that you can grow something. We see it in sprinklers at our houses. We have sprinklers at our houses and our apartments. They just sprinkle all over the place. The water, that's our irrigation center. Well, they had a man-made one. How did they do it? They dug ditches going through to make a pathway for the water to come through, and then they could water the land crops easily, called irrigation. They were the first ones to think about that. And that's why city-states were very important in this area, because if you can grow crops, you don't have to be a nomad. You don't have to go left and right trying to find food. You have it because you're growing it. So it caused people to stay in certain areas. They also came up with the laws, Hammurabi Code, plows for agriculture. This is kind of like a plow, back in the back with, they put the animal in front and then the plow in the back. The sailboat, the wheeled carts. So they created the wheeled carts. And writing cuneiform. So this is the oldest form of writing in the world. And it was on web shapes on clay. So they didn't put it on a piece of paper. They put it on clay. And this is it, actual cuneiform. So you can see some triangles and some lines, some dots and stuff like that. This was the first written language. All right, now we're moving on to the Ottoman Empire. That was a key thing in history in Africa and all over Asia. So the Ottoman Empire stretched from Northern Africa, Southwest Asia, and Southeast Europe. So they took over all of those places. The primary foundation of the empire was Islamic faith. And the Sultan, the Ottoman Empire, became the most powerful man in Islam from 1300 to 1922. And the Sultan, we talked about that, the Sultan is the king for this empire. So this one right here is the key one. He's called Suleiman the Magnificent. He was the longest reigning Sultan of the Ottoman Empire. So it was a vast kingdom. So you can see all of the red is where they overtook the land. Okay, so they acquired all of this land here. So you can see all of Egypt, Cairo, parts of Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Iran, Turkey, all of this area here in North Africa. So they took over a lot of land. So what happened? How did they collapse? During World War One, the Ottoman Empire went with the Central Powers, and the Central Powers lost. So they ended the war. They lost the war, and the government collapsed. So the government that won decided, the League of Nations actually, which is a group of people who are presidents and kings and who discuss the problems that are happening in the world, that is called the League of Nations. They gave the Ottoman Empire territory to different places. So you can see right here, this is what French got, this is what Italian got, this is what British got. And so you can see all of these places being just given to uh, countries that were in Europe. Now, of course, the people that were there didn't like that because the Arabs or countries were not consulted about the division of the territory. And so that created problems for land division. And it's still there today. They're still fighting over this land that actually was not the British or the French's land. It was the country's land, Africa or Southwest Asia. And they're still fighting over that because the area is rich with oil. So whoever has control over that gets the money. So they are still having disputes over that. Next up is ancient Egypt. Okay, so we just went over Mesopotamia, then we went to Ottoman Empire. Now we're going to ancient Egypt. So ancient Egypt lasts for 3,000 years, from 3150 to BC to 30 BC. So the Pharaoh of Egypt was often buried in giant pyramids in secret tombs. That's what you see. And those structures are still there today. Those pyramids are still there today. How did they build that without technology? We don't know. So, but they believed that they needed treasure to be buried with them to help them in the afterlife. So everything was buried with them, including their servants. So if I was a servant of Cleopatra, or Cleopatra, then if she died, then they kill me so that I can take care of her still in the afterlife. All right, so they believed that there was an afterlife. They were one of the first civilizations to use ink or write on paper called papyrus. So remember the first one, the cuneiform, they wrote on clay and they chiseled it in. This here, they are writing on paper and they're using ink. All right, so it's the first time that they were using that. They were using these pictures in order to write, called hieroglyphics, and that's what they look like. All right, so when you go to Egypt, you can actually get your name in hieroglyphics. So this is a video that talks about all of that. All right, the Islamic Caliphates. The Caliphate is the name of the Muslim government that ruled Islamic empires during the Middle Ages. The Caliphate controlled Western Asia, North Africa, and parts of Europe. Why? Because it was not just a king, he was the leader of Islam. So he was the religious leader and also the government leader. So its culture and trade influences much of the civilized world, spreading the religion of Islam and introducing advances in science, education, and technology. Okay. Immigration. Most of the large-scale migrations that has occurred throughout Southwest Asia has been motivated by political turmoil. We're going to talk about this, or escaping persecution. So the Jewish diaspora. This is when Jews were exiled. They're exiled from Israel by the Romans. and they went to different places. You can see all of this. They had to go. 15 million Jews throughout the world had to move and migrate to other countries because of Jewish diaspora. All right, the Syria refugee crisis, at least 470,000 people have been killed in the Syrian war since 2011. So this is current, more current. The cities have been destroyed by bombs. There's little food and medical care. Thousands of people are fleeing the violence and evacuating Syria every day. Okay, so they are in a refugee camp right here. They're living in tents. They may get a chance to go to a different country. They may not. All right, so this video here is talking, it's a little girl, and she is going through how it is to be a refugee. So she starts off with having a birthday, and then she sees the war come into her area, and it's about the Syrian refugee and being one. All right, now the Silk Road also was a trade route between China and Eastern Europe. We'll talk a little bit more about this because it is a part of Southwest Asia's history, but it's one of the primary trade routes through the region, and we'll talk more about it when we talk about China. All right, make sure you do This Time to Climb because it's going to help you with the exit tickets. All right, so we have the exit ticket. Here we go. Let's preview that. All right, what is the first written code of laws called? All right, so you should know what that is. Number 2, what is the Muslim government that rules the Islamic Empire during the Middle Ages? You should know what that is. What religion was spread across North Africa? You should know what that is. A person who leaves the country to seek protection in another country is called. You should know what that is. And true or false, the Egyptians were one of the first civilizations to use ink to write on a paper called papyrus. True or false, you should know what that is. All right, so once you get that done and get that 100, because you are so smart, you have learned about the history of the Middle East, we have a fun activity page today. So you click here for your copy. And it'll take you to this, which is your journal entry for today. It's first of all using hieroglyphics, copy and paste each letter to spell your name. All right, so you can see right here, that is B for Buckner. You can either do your first or last name or both if you want to. So this is what I'm going to copy, this boot or foot. So Control C, then go over here, and it's not going to go, but at least I can press Control B as in van, and then move this one over, B, and then we'll do the rest of them. The bird is U, C is this cup or bowl. So then I will put them like so across. Okay, and you should do that for your name. The next thing is, how would you change the Hammurabi's code? If a son strikes a father, his hand shall be hewn or cut off. Now, do you want your hand to be cut off? No. What could you change the law to be? Okay, whatever you think the law should be, you should say that in this box below. So type it in. Instead of he should go to a court of law and go to jail instead of getting his hand cut off. Maybe that may be something that you might want to write in this box. All you do is tap on it when you see this right here. That means that it's in there, so you can just type in the letters, okay? All right. If anyone is committing a robbery and is caught, then he shall be put to death. That's Hammurabi's code. But thank God we don't have Hammurabi's code. Well, maybe that's what we need in order to get this nation back in order. Nobody would actually be uh, committing robbery anymore if that was to happen, because they would have to be put to death. So if they got caught. So, but what could you say in here as another way? What would you say instead of being put to death? So after you do that, you copy this and you put it in your journal. So you highlight this. See that it's highlighted because it has an orange. You press Control C. Go to your journal. Scroll down to the last page. And then press Control V. And it's in there, but we need to not match the styles. We need to keep original styles. So keep the original styles. And now it's in your journal. All righty, wonderful. I know you guys can do this. It's awesome. I'm so glad to have you as my students. So thank you for coming. If you have any questions, that's what this video is for. Replay it, put it back. Find the answers to your questions. Be very careful because you have 2 chances only to do the exit ticket. So do your best. All right. Have a great day, you guys. Thank you and bye.